Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast from Arizona. I have Dan Shinder. He's founder and CEO of Drum Talk TV Incorporated. I'm really happy to have him on to discuss his venture, how he's built a outstanding brand, and talk all entrepreneurship and business. Dan, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I love talking about this stuff, not from a bragging standpoint, but I've learned so much from other people during my journey that I like to share from my journey to hopefully help other people as well. I think it's important to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and briefly introduce yourself and excited to dive into the questions.
Sure. Thanks. So I'm Dan Shinder. I'm based in a very small city. We were just talking about that in Globe, Arizona, which is the middle of nowhere, which is why
Yeah.
we live here. Our kids can't find us. And that it's east of Phoenix. But that's another thing. My wife and I have a blended family of 11 kids, 19 grandkids, and a 1.5-year-old great grandson. And I always like telling people, I'm pretty busy. You should never be too busy to keep learning and keep improving. I listen to about 3 business audiobooks a month. I listen to them 2 or 3 times in a row. I've been a drummer for 55 years. I had a professional career.
Yeah.
And I also have a marketing coaching consulting company that was born out of the success of Drum Talk TV, because in our first year, it was pointed out to me that we were achieving 900% more online reach and engagement than everybody else in our space. And we were the newest brand by 10 years. And that inspired me to start another company to teach people how I've done that. I started the company January of 2013. I can't believe 12 and a half years have just flown by. And a lot of the time it's felt like hanging on to the back of a caboose of a speeding train with my teeth and my feet flying in the air behind me, winding down a canyon. It's If anybody out there that's an entrepreneur, no matter where you are in your journey, I'm sure everyone can relate to that. At some point, there's bumps and bruises and high points and all kinds of things. For hobbies, along with the kids and grandkids and great grandson, we have 3 dogs and 2 cats, all rescues. And for a hobby to keep myself off the news, one of the big things I do besides spend time with them is I grow flowers. I have a greenhouse where I grow herbs and vegetables, and our whole yard is concrete. So I do container gardening and grow about 47 varieties of wildflowers and things. And that keeps me off the news. I go out there and there's 12 kinds of butterflies, 3 kinds of bumblebees, and that's my chill time. And that's a bit about me.
Yeah, and I love how you describe keeping off the evening news. That's so one thing we'll talk about Drum Talk TV first, and it's got 1.5 million active followers and reaching average of 100 million a year. Who tunes into Drum Talk TV? Is it music? Is it talk about the audience you've built and created?
It's a funny question to me because often I look at what I do at what we do and I see these crazy numbers and I think, what kind of weirdos are tuning into this? But I say that lovingly. It started out in the very beginning, in the very beginning. It was created for drummers, but very quickly after that, it's really for music fans. And I say that because I noticed that things we were publishing that were going viral. And when I looked at our audience and people would talk to me, there weren't even drummers. A lot of them weren't even musicians, but they just, I like to say, were followed by drummers, other musicians, other people in the music industry, music fans, and weirdos like my wife that just like watching drummers. And we really do span all the typical age brackets from 18 to 24, 25 to 34, all the way up to 65 plus.
Uh,
And we cover music from over 100 countries. That's one of the things we do is curate content from our fans all over the world, Christopher. And that's one of my favorite parts. Like, we have 4 original series with a 5th series coming. We report industry news, we do documentaries, we cover events. But when we curate content from our fans, I just love that. I love kind of being the tooth fairy that I could take someone's video they submitted or I discovered and think it'll do well and put it on our channel right before or after a golden platinum artist. It's just really neat to see that. And I think that's one of the wonderful things, Christopher, about the world we live in with the internet, is that anyone could really get noticed, and you never know what's going to happen from that, which is cool.
Yeah. And we have a lot of, again, the audience are professionals. We're talking about finances and financial freedom, but talk about how you got product market fit. How did you decide? How did you hit what resonates with fans? And you teach that your principles can work for any business in any industry, anywhere. What's the secret sauce?
The secret sauce really is number one, you got to sit at the grown-ups table and be objective. We all want to believe our stuff is cool. We think it's a good idea. And don't ask your
Yeah.
friend. Don't ask your friends because our friends, bless their hearts, will hold our hand, walk with us, nodding and smiling till we get to the cliff and let go because they don't want to hurt our feelings. You need to ask people who are going to give you the truth and that will push you down the stairs, run down, hit you in the jaw before you can get up, and then help you up and dust you off and tell you what could be better, what you may not be doing right. We got to really be real. So that's part of the secret sauce. The other is to I love what Seth Godin says, and that is you've got to be remarkable. You've got to
Right.
stand out. When people say what differentiates you, you can't say we got the best service, we got great locations, we've got the best price. Everybody says that. It's such a platitude, but what is like exactly what you're asking, Christopher? What's that secret sauce, that magic pixie dust? And in the beginning, people thought I was crazy when I started Drum Talk TV and they said, well, how are you going to monetize it? And in the beginning, to me, the question to me was so bewildering that it gave me pause. And I said, and I'm in my 60s. So I grew up where you'd watch TV and you'd turn it on. There'd magically be a show, The Flintstones, I Love Lucy. And how was that on? The producers and the networks matched advertisers that had a product or service that matched the demographics of the eyeballs that watched the show. So I told people, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build this big audience and I'll get sponsors. And really, the first few years was all about just doing that. Other than delivering a great experience, that comes first. But there was no monetization for quite a while. But I have to be honest, I never had in my sights to have 1.5 million followers, reach 100 million people a year. That never came to my mind until we hit 500,000 followers. And I thought, all we have to do is do that again. And we're at 1 million. So, really, in the beginning, it was about building a big audience and finding the right brands that understood the value of what we had to offer to put them on a launching pad to see more, to have more eyeballs see their product and service without them spending tons and tons of money like traditional television advertising. Then came about 3 years ago or so, we started developing this crazy idea I had for a membership site. My wife for years kept saying, "You should be on Patreon, you should be on Patreon." But I did some research, and to be on Patreon, you have to have unique content that's different from what you're giving away for free. And quite frankly, we were doing so much, Christopher, that I couldn't think of. I kept telling her, I don't know what else we can do. And she said, you got to figure it out. And one day she yelled at me so hard that I came in here, I turned off the lights. I just had the glow and I just sat and I thought, what could we do that's different that we could offer on a paid membership site? One idea came, another idea came, and then the top of my head blew off. And I just had this long list of, in fact, here's my notes on my 9-foot whiteboard, always putting more ideas together. And it's bingo, I got it. So we spent 3 years developing this membership site that is now launched. And what it is, just in short, we have twice a month live music themed online game shows, typically trivia based. People can win prizes, covers all genres of music. Someone confided in us who's won the most amount of times that she guesses most of the time. So that is super fun. We do fan Q&A sessions with gold and platinum artists where it's not me interviewing them. It's in a virtual environment that might be a virtual campsite or a bubble amphitheater in space, things like that, where people don't need crazy goggles or fancy headgear. They can access it on a mobile device, a tablet, a PC, or a laptop. And the fans get to ask the artists and even record executives and producers questions. and we keep them on the big screen with the artist until the artist finishes answering the question. Then I'll pop on and say, great, maybe make a comment. Okay, Christopher Liu is next. Let's bring Christopher up with Nico McBrain from Iron Maiden. And you get to ask the question. We do private live stream concerts that the artists put on for us that are in an intimate setting, also in a virtual environment, but it might be in their living room or their home studio or at an arena before sound check, things like that. So we've expanded, we've tossed some things out, you figure out what works, what doesn't, you polish what works, make it better. And that's been the big thing. And it's one of those things where there's a free level and then there's the anyone can do it level. It costs less than a pizza a month, a bucket of chicken a month, less than a combo meal at a fast food restaurant a month. We really wanted to make it accessible. And now we're getting ready in August to launch four other levels that incrementally go up a little bit more. And there's a crazy, really expensive level that we're only opening twice a year. And I'll come wax your car or make a cake if you're in the continental United States. It's like a bunch of really fun, special, crazy stuff because we realized that there's a demographic out there of hobbyists or enthusiasts or the retired dentist or the attorney, people making six figures that have a nice portfolio that always wanted to be in a band. And now here's their chance to be part of an elite focus group where they can vote on things that we're working on and their vote counts. And so we've got really creative with people reaching people who may not come in at the $12 a month level because to them they think like that's not special enough. Okay, I'll come wax your car, make a cake, and you have a vote on some of the things that we do. Guest VJ, things like that. So in short, to take all that and truncate it back, at first I knew how I wanted to monetize it. I had to build it big enough so that the advertising model would work. Then through inspiration of my amazing wife, I came up with the idea of she came up with the idea of the membership site. I just had to figure out what we would do with it. And then we've worked at it. And here we are 12 and a half years later with an 8-figure valuation and looking to expand. And it's been quite a ride. And like any other business, there's been the throw my hands up in the air moment. There's been crying, there's been yelling, screaming, throwing things. There's been the euphoric, I can't believe this is working so well moments. It's been a little bit of everything. And I'm sure you can relate to that, Christopher, that 360-degree full sphere of emotions that you never even knew were there once you become an entrepreneur that really dives deep into the journey.
Yeah, that's an amazing segue into, because what's interesting is I talked to one segment and they're like niche down. Just your follower count doesn't matter, your email list, your newsletter, and just market like a lot of doctors, lawyers. They're using this model because they can't scale to 1 million plus followers. So they're like, yeah, just cultivate a community. And it's
Right.
interesting. Yeah, and it's interesting talking to you because you've done exactly the opposite. You've grown following and then that's attracted advertising and sponsorship. So what's the in between? How do you reconcile these two?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because they are two completely different revenue streams. The first one, if we look at the marketing and advertising programs and sponsorships, and starting with the first part of that, it's B2B and it's to serve the other business. But in turn, with the right clients, we and they are in turn serving our consumers, our followers, and the people we reach. So it's this nice little ecosystem there. And with the sponsorships, we're starting to create some really neat events in person and online toward the end of this year and into next year, where that sort of B2B business absolutely helps nurture our consumer base because they're enabling us to put on these really fun events and things like that's completely different than the other side of our business, the B2C side with the membership site. It really takes something that I feel we've pioneered in our space from the very beginning, where we're able to take it to a different level. And that's the inclusive factor. That is the factor of we've always let our audience be part of what we do. And the way that happened was in the beginning, when we really hit the hockey stick hard in the beginning and started to build that huge following. And I tell people, you don't need 1 million followers. This just happened. But to get to the million, I had to have one, that was me. I had to have 100, had to get to 1,000, 10,000, 15,000, and on and on. Using the same methodology, it's worked. But that inclusiveness came about because we on Facebook is where we grew the most quickly. And people were messaging the page saying, "Can I be on Drum Talk TV? Will we feature my video on Drum Talk TV? Can we post my video?" And we had this automatic message that I'm sure came across snobby. It wasn't intended for that. I'll take the blame. I wrote the message, and it said, "Thank you for your inquiry. Drum Talk TV is to cater to the artists and the brands that we work with. There's plenty of other public Facebook community groups where you can post your video, blah, blah, blah. Have a great day." But it just kept loading up. So one day I said, "What are people sending in?" So I opened it up and I remember I'm busy. I don't have time for this. And I felt my body language go from here to turning on the video, watching this guy start to play, played really well, big smile on his face, sparkly white teeth. And as I'm watching it, I felt my body go. And right there, bing, I realized I'm a part of the community we cater to. If I liked it, other people will like it. And I called Lori real quick, our chief digital officer at the time. Lori, we got to start a portal so that people can submit videos so that she said, "But I thought we weren't using the," no, I'll explain later. When we started featuring our fans' videos, our followers went from 75,000 to 150,000 in 3 months. Making them part of the experience has been the biggest game changer we ever did. And we're still doing it all 12 and a half years later, even with the membership site. People can win guest VJ spots to host a show with me or on our news desk report with a different host every week. We do that, report music industry news. And that's part of, I think, I hate to use Seth Godin's term, what makes us remarkable, but it's absolutely part of what makes our differentiation from all the other brands in our space, because nobody was doing it. And within a year, a couple cymbal companies, a couple drumstick companies started to do that with fans that use their products. And we started that. And I'm never mad about anything like that. Come one, come all. If you love what we're doing, go ahead and do it yourself your own way as well. Let's all prosper and give all those people a chance. And that's been a huge part of it all. And that's really what separates those two things: the inclusiveness of the membership site and that revenue stream being created solely for providing great experiences for our followers in a smaller community, like you said. And we're only looking to get 3 to 5% of our 1 million followers. Like, we're not, people are pipe dreaming with lead paint in the pipe if they're saying, "I got 1 million followers," or "I got 10,000 followers, I can get 50% of them in my," it's never going to happen. It's never worked like that for anybody. So you got to keep your feet on the ground. And being a C Corp and with shareholders, I'd rather under project and have them throw a parade for us when we do really well, rather than put us in front of the firing squad. If we overshoot this pipe dream of numbers, they buy into it, and then we do the average of the industry when it comes to membership sites into 3 or 5%. So those two things are quite different, but they both have their own ecosystem of how they serve the brands and the B2B side and the consumer side. And in the membership side, we're going to be getting sponsorships for some of the different exclusive events we're doing. So it does the same thing in two completely different uniforms, if you will, and different climates too. So you got to know your audience, and you got to not believe the herd mentality. One of the biggest thorns in my side about the herd mentality, Christopher, is that people say, people in their 60s or older, my age, are saying, "Yeah, the 18 to 24-year-olds are only on TikTok and Instagram, and the old people like Dan are only on Facebook and LinkedIn." Every age is on every platform. None of them are age specific. Not even Twitch. There are 60, 70 plus year olds that are video gaming with people around the world on Twitch. There's 18 to 24-year-olds on everybody's everywhere. So you got to take a step back. And this is what I did in the beginning. I used three things. I thought a pretty good idea. I used objectivity and logic and uncommon sense. And I stepped out of the herd mentality, did it our way, and boom, we just skyrocketed past everybody in our space. It can work, but you won't know if you're just doing what everybody said. "We got to do this because I'm putting it in a box, and that's how it's always been done." If that's how it's always been done, it's never going to get better if that's all you're ever always going to do. So you got to be the outlier, be creative, be a little scary with it, not be afraid to walk on the ice of the pond and have a plan if you fall through. But you really had to no one's ever created something epic. Uber, Twitch, Instagram, no one's ever, Airbnb, no one's ever created anything exceptional by doing how something's always been done, or by not taking chances, or by not thinking out of the box, or by not being risky. And really, that's what it takes. And sometimes it's scary, sometimes it's euphoric. Sometimes you might wake up and say, why don't I just go back to getting a corporate job with the insurance and the paycheck and the vacation time? You know what I mean? I know that was a long answer, but I hope I addressed what you're asking for there.
Yeah, I love how you alluded to the golden handcuffs.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
So we do have one question from the audience, which is really interesting. Is and I know you have your time is so
Yeah,
you
that's okay.
mentioned 12 years. How long did it take for you from like inception to actually get substantial income where this was your full-time thing? And were you releasing daily or weekly, or talk about your
Yeah.
process?
It really took about, I'm going to say 3 to 4 years
Hmm.
before I brought it to the point where we could bring on advertisers or sponsors.
Oh,
3 to 4 years. I was funding it, bootstrapping it myself, and even past that time to a degree until about 5 years ago. I bootstrapped those first 7 years in part because I started that marketing training company. And I ended up doing different free workshops, paid workshops, one-to-one consulting or coaching with an individual or with a company. Then I took a course on how to teach a course in mastermind groups and went from my high ticket of $8,700 to $15,000. And I was making really good money, but I would just pay all our bills, put some ice cream money away, and dump the rest back into keeping Drum Talk TV afloat until we were able to really start bringing in big sponsors. And then eventually turned it into, it was an LLC under a DBA under a different LLC, then went C Corp in April of 2020, got investors, got shareholders, and really good people who are hands on as well that come to the meetings every month. They share ideas. They don't want to just be silent partners, and that's not what I want. And that's really been the trajectory. Now with the membership site, that's growing. It's brand new. We really incubated it ourselves for about 3 years. I said, yeah, 3 years. We focus grouped it, and then we expanded that. Then we had early adopters. Then we, like I said, threw a few things out, sewed some things back together, and now we've got a few hundred members. And it's really starting to do this as we're expanding different experience and things. So the timeline of the 12 and a half years, the first 3 years was breaking really big hard rocks into little rocks with a plastic spork from Taco Bell. That's what it really felt. A lot of heavy lifting and grinding, and just, and a lot of maybe you should just go get a real job. As supportive as my wife is, there were a couple times it was, and I'd put on a suit and go out there, and it would just be like, you know what, this is BS. This is, I'm not doing this. Not
yeah,
doing this. I know this will work. And thanks to her, my wife's name is Enja. Oh, she's here. Here with us. Thanks to my amazing wife, who's been so supportive and is now also our human resources manager. Hey, we got 11 kids, 19 grandkids, a great grandson. We're nurturing by nature. So I felt she's perfect to be the company den mother and run human resources. But you need to surround yourself with people who will support you. And it doesn't mean they have to agree with you and always be yes people, but they'll support you, people that will tell you the truth, people you can learn from. And people you can learn from are not always people that have made it bigger than you already. You can learn from a student. We have a wonderful intern who's studying media studies in university and has an interest in podcasting. She's now our anchor for our weekly news desk reports. And now we have a special guest that's the co-host. And she's come up, she rearranged our whole itinerary of the order of things. And it was like, yeah, why did we think of that? It takes objectivity, and it really takes a team. It takes a village, as they say.
yeah,
And it's,
interesting.
you got to be a learner, and you got to be open, and most of all, you got to be open to being wrong. Hopefully my wife didn't hear that. My door's cracked open for the dogs. You got to be open to being wrong, though, seriously, and be magnanimous about that. because that will help build a great company culture. I know someone that writes books and speaks on don't let them see you sweat. No offense to her, it's the opposite of my belief, where you got to be show that you're vulnerable. You got to show that you're human, because if you build a company culture where they put you on this big pedestal and you never show those real emotions or frustration, or gosh, I was so off on that one. Sorry, everybody. That was BS. I should have listened to Steven, and we should have, you got to be able to do that. And then you're not separating yourself. And I don't think, as a leader, as a CEO and a founder, I don't want to separate myself. I tell Eileen, our intern, we met through Podmatch, and I tell her, you got to stay on me about this. There's so much going on. I showed you my whiteboard. So there's so much in front of me all the time, Shiley. Do not be shy about being my babysitter for that thing. You got to stay on me. And it's worked. It's built a really nice team where it's family. And I don't mean that in the way that, because it is. My son, Steve, is our COO and our executive producer. My wife is the HR manager. We just hired our granddaughter. She's 8, but she's real smart. Now she's 24. And then we've got a few other people, but we really are like family, because we know we can knock each other down if we have to. I don't ever want anyone to back me up on something that's obviously the wrong thing to do, or not the greatest idea on the table, or whatever. I told everyone, you have a responsibility to tell anyone on this team that they're wrong and why, even if it's not your department, even if it's not something that you're responsible for. So company culture is a really big thing with us and with me personally.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks so much for coming on. I know the audience, and just briefly, how can people contact you and then check out your platform?
Sure. Thank you. They can go to, if they want to check out the membership site, they can go to drumtalktvbrilliance.com. That's brilliance with a C at the end, brilliancece.com. They can check that out. Like I said, there's a free level. There's plenty of fun stuff to do there. In fact, I have a code. May I give a code for them to get 3 free months of our premium level? Would that be all
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
great. That is D, all caps and all put together, DTTV, and the word free, 3, the number 3. We'll get them 3 free months. Use that anytime. Doesn't expire. They can go to drumtalktv.com. Facebook is where we have the most interaction, but we're also on YouTube, Instagram, X, Vimeo, and TikTok. If anyone's interested in marketing insights and just has questions, I'm not going to try and sell people on a program, but by now, no, I'm just kidding. If you just have questions, folks, want me to look at something, you can email me directly, dan@advancedsocialmarketing.com. You can go to advancedsocialmarketing.com, learn more about why learn from me, check out the website. But I'm always happy to just ask questions, and I do free workshops all the time and things like that. And if people get on the mailing list, they'll get invited to that. And yeah, I so appreciate the opportunity, Christopher. It's been great. I really love what you're doing.
Excellent. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for putting up with me.